Good morning, everybody. Another beautiful day in paradise. So yesterday I watched the video. I don't know if yesterday officially they voted on the next stimulus bill, but yesterday I was informed that the stimulus bill was being voted on. And someone in the office representing us, AOC, had a question to ask, average American citizens.
I'm coming to you live from the Capitol. I'm about to hop in and vote on our next coronavirus relief bill. Shout out to activists who sent this over to me. But I want to know what questions you have about the bill. I feel very complicated. I have a lot of feelings about it because there are bad things in this bill and there are good things in this bill. Additional $1,200 stimulus payment. We all need more help. Everyone needs more help. But I would wish that we would fight for recurring payments because this is the Democratic bill, right? And so I would prefer that we push for more than what the Senate settled for going in our starting offer. Anyways, so I think what's really important here is that I wish we had recurring payments. This doesn't have recurring payments, but it does have a $1,200 payment. I wish this had more student loan forgiveness. This has a small amount for people who are in really steep trouble. But the good news is that I believe it suspends student loan payments for about a year. So that's really huge. This also has $100 billion in relief, in housing relief, on mortgages and renters, which we need stronger housing measures for sure. And here's the other bad, so there's bad and there's good, right? Bad is that this bill, in terms of healthcare, subsidizes COBRA, which basically is a subsidy. It's a giveaway to health insurance companies instead of expanding access to Medicare for the unemployed, which actually will help people go to the doctor. So that's the bad. The good is that, for example, these payments, these new stimulus payments include mixed status families and immigrant taxpayers, which the last stimulus payments. So, all of these things are really tough. And there's a question here from Jamal Bauman. Hello, Jamal. It says, do you think we will get what we need, guaranteeing everyone's income by compromising? Obviously, we won't. The tricky issue is that the Congress that we have right now is conservative, and compromise or no compromise, things are really, really tough right now. Because even in the House, we have a lot of conservative Democrats, Democrats that fight against immigrant provisions, Democrats that would rather do tax cuts instead of all-out help. And so, these are the issues these are very real issues that we have to contend with. And how we navigate power when we don't yet have it is a very real thing. And so what do we do in that situation? And so unfortunately, kind of what I'm stuck between is that there's this, the center of gravity. The risk is that if you vote down this bill, it will get even more conservative. And so the question is, do you support the bill with really huge progressive gains in it, although we know it's not enough? Or do we risk voting it down and letting it be more conservative than it already is? And so, that doesn't feel good. It's days like these that are really tough for me and can be very discouraging. But at the same time, we also have to realize suspension of student loan payments for an entire year buys us a lot of time to help us get student loan forgiveness. That buys us a year to help us lobby for student loan forgiveness, including ITINs, as many of you know, is so huge for immigrants and American citizens who love immigrants, are married to immigrants, all of them, citizens and non-citizens, were excluded from the last stimulus payments. These are people who are taxpayers. They're super huge. For my district, which is half immigrant, it's super, super huge. So, you know, what would you do in this situation? Would you vote yes and try to lock in gains? Or would you vote no and risk losing those gains?
So, given, what would you do in this situation? That's what I was curious about. A lot of people will say, you know, we'll call out the corruptions, you know, the basic stuff. But let's say for right now, you have to play ball. You're in the House. You're representing an entire state, okay? And you have to pass certain bills. And it's not even your state. You have to also consider other states that are dealing with things, probably with poverty and so forth and so on. Maybe even dealing with homelessness, so forth and so on. And or people who are major manufacturer companies that can't work right now. Like, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. So, would you just reject every bill, even though it benefit some of the wealthiest people every time? Or would you have to kind of be flexible and, you know, just kind of win some, lose some kind of battle, and then when the time comes, you'll be able to actually kind of, you know, fight when there's more progressives in the House. But currently you're in a situation where there's not a lot of progressives. There's more corrupted politicians being paid by the lobbyists and establishment corporations. So it's kind of hard to compete with that. So when she asks, what would you do? It's a very good question, because what would you do? Would you just keep rejecting, or and if you kept rejecting, is it the possibility that these you know, bought politicians, these establishment politicians, are they going to keep increasing much more difficulties to give to the average Joe and give more benefits to the wealthy? Or are they going to just throw us tiny little bones and throw bigger chunks of meat? The wealthiest people out there are the people that aren't really dealing with the struggle as much. That's a tough call. It's a tough decision. Let's say you rejected them all. Now it's a game of, you know, pointing fingers. You know, people are going to say you're crying wolf all the time. Oh, you know, this is never good enough. This is not good enough. This is not good enough. You have to be reasonable. It's about democracy, yada, yada, yada. Establishment politicians will say that. Mainstream media will say that. They'll keep attacking you. Even your own party will attack you for not supporting certain bills because this would have helped Americans. They'll use a narrative, so forth and so on. So it just doesn't stop, really, when it comes to for the bad guys to win. So the question is, would you just keep on trying to stick with principles, or would you actually do something about it? I honestly have to say that it's kind of hard to stick to principles when you're dealing with a dirty game. So you have to kind of work with the tools you got. So I think she's doing the right thing by trying to get as much as she can, but at the same time not giving all the you know, benefits to the most wealthiest people in this country. So I give props to AOC for this. And given the situation, what would you guys do? Would you actually just keep saying no to each bill in hopes that they'll give you exactly what you want? Or would you just, and imagine that drags on forever, and then mainstream media, conservatives, Democratic establishments start saying, oh, they don't want to support the bill. They're not trying to help the American people. And then the American people, not saying you, but maybe the average Joe, maybe someone less informed, will get mad and upset and be like, hey, you know, why aren't you passing this bill? And then start sending letters saying, hey, why aren't you passing this bill? You need to let this bill pass. Why you keep rejecting this? Why you keep turning it down? We need this. We're starving. And then start twisting that politician's arm, that progressive politician's arm, putting them in a situation where they're in a corner because they don't know that they're trying to help them in their best interests. But sometimes the best interest means you have to actually fight, and you might have to, it's a long game. Anyways, that's it for us, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Please share, subscribe, or like the channel. As always, really appreciate you guys. Catch you guys later. Peace.